Dixie darling, listen to the song I sing beneath the silver moon with the banjo right in tune. I love no one but you, my heart is ever true, my Dixie darling, my Dixie queen.
They call it America's instrument. It's one of the, maybe the only instrument that's kind of evolved. It wasn't created here, but it's kind of, in its this form it's in now, it's pretty much evolved here in America. It came to America with the enslaved African Americans in probably 1600s. They've traced kind of records back to mid 1700s probably, but it probably goes back even farther than that. And at that point it was a gourd with instead of a round pot like this, it was just a gourd with the head, like the top cut off of it, and a skin tacked around it. And instead of a neck, it had just a stick, like a round stick. And they still play an instrument real similar to that today called a conking. And it had less strings. I think it had maybe 4 strings. The current day banjos, or the ones I make, are 5-string banjos. And so they think they added this bass string. So originally they think it still had this short string. So that short string has kind of remained with the banjo throughout its several hundred years of evolution here in the United States. So it, like a gourd would be pretty fragile. So they started making them more into rims. So they would take whatever they had, like say an old grain measure or a cheese hoop, and which made it a little sturdier and probably still would attack a skin on it. And then kind of in the mid 1800s, kind of in the minstrel era, they started adding some hooks to it, so you can tighten the hooks up and change the tension on the skin. Because if it's just tacked around, if it gets real wet out, if it's raining or moist, the skin gets all soggy and tends to sag, and then your banjo sounds horrible. So when you start adding these hooks, and then you can tighten the head down, so when it gets saggy, you can tighten it up and it'll make it sound better. So that was a pretty good innovation. And then also in the kind of that same minstrel era, mid 1800s, a guy named Joel Sweeney, I think added this 4th string. I mean, it's a 5th string, but some people used to think he added the short string, but now people think that the short string was always there and he just added this lower bass string. And then at that point, kind of mid 1800s, it was kind of similar to what it is today. They added steel strings more in the early 1900s, and a few other things. They started adding resonators to the back of them in the probably early 1900s too, just to make them louder, like when they were playing in big, like kind of big jazz orchestras or big, they actually had big banjo orchestras. So you'd have 20 banjos of all different sizes. You'd have little teeny piccolo banjos or big bass banjos. And it was just, to be heard, you wanted to have, they started putting these backs on them called resonators. And that's more what bluegrass musicians play today. They're called resonator banjos. I think of it as more of a rhythm instrument. Some people play it today as more of a melodic instrument, and there's even a style called melodic banjo, which is real notey and clean, and the banjo's kind of playing the melody like the fiddle would play the melody, like lots of notes and a whole lot of rhythm. I mean, there's always a rhythm there in any kind of music, but it's less rhythmic. And then there's another style that's really lots of rhythm, just playing chords kind of on the banjo. And the way I play is more in the middle. Like there's always this kind of strum going in the background, and then you're playing a kind of a skeleton version of the tune of the melody. So I think of it, its job is to keep the rhythm. And that's what I think makes old time music different than bluegrass. It just has this really strong rhythm, and it's more of a dance music than bluegrass music. Because, well, I mean, if you go way back to the origins of it, it was originated as a dance music. It was played by people just kind of hanging out on their farm or wherever, and they would get together with the guy down the road and play music for a dance on a weekend or something. So it was definitely a community-oriented dance music. And then in the 40s, it kind of got, I guess Bill Monroe would probably be the one people say kind of started bluegrass music and kind of made it kind of a little flashier and fancier and more of a performance-based music out of it, which is bluegrass. So it has kind of the same roots, but it's kind of less dance-oriented, I guess, than old-time music would be. So what I mean by the melody, like I was saying, that there's this kind of strum is the basis of old-time music, and that short drone string, which goes back to the African instrument. So there's always the strum and the thumb. So they call it a bum titty. So it's like bum titty, bum titty, bum titty. The way I'm playing is called claw hammer, which is different from three finger, like Earl Scruggs style finger picking, which picks up with three fingers. So in old time music, it's called claw hammer. So you basically make a claw out of your hand and you hammer down on the string. So I pretty much use these two fingers and that's it. And you're just strumming down. So that's the basic. So you'll be. So you can hear that strum and that drone string is always in there, and it just has this really good kind of danceable rhythm to it. In the mid-1800s, the minstrel era started, and it was this huge craze. I mean, it was like the popular music of its time. It's like hip-hop is today, or rock and roll was in the 50s. You know, it was just this huge fad. And there were these minstrel shows that toured all over the country, and they would have banjos and bones and fiddles, dancers. It was a little bit different. It wasn't quite what people consider old-time music, but it was real popular, and they toured all over the world. So they ended up carrying the banjo to a lot of different places in the world. That's how it kind of went back over to England.
It's up on the Blue Ridge Mountain, it's there I'll take my stand. Up on the Blue Ridge Mountain, there I'll take my stand, with a rifle on my shoulder 6-shooter in my hand. I've been all around this world. It's Ruby, Ruby, come open up the door. Ruby, Ruby, come open up the door. For I have to open it with my old 44. I've been all around this world. It's Mama and Papa and little sister make 3. Mama and Papa and little sister make 3. They take me down to the station. It's the last they'll see of me. I've been all around this world. I'm working on the new railroad in the mud up to my knees. Working on the new railroad in the mud up to my knees. I'm digging for Big John Henry, and he's so hard to please. I've been all around this world. It's up on the Blue Ridge Mountain. It's there I'll take my stand. Up on the Blue Ridge Mountain, there I'll take my stand. With a rifle on my shoulder, 6-shooter in my hand. I've been all around this world.
It was still considered a real primitive instrument at that point. And then in the late 1900s, they tried to elevate it to like a real high class instrument. So they made them a lot fancier. They started putting tons of ornamentation on them and made them smaller and more delicate, and kind of marketed them more towards like women and kind of upper crust people with money, and just made them more of a real high class instrument. And then they kind of faded out again a little bit. And then in the 20s, the jazz age started, and they kind of were back again. Probably at that point, there were more tenor banjos, which were 4-string banjos, and they were a little shorter. So it was still banjo, but a little bit different. And then they faded again, and then in the 40s, bluegrass music became real popular. So Earl Scruggs kind of really popularized this 3-finger style playing of the banjo that really worked great with bluegrass music. So then it again became really popular again with bluegrass music. And now there's kind of another resurgence going on with the open back banjos. There's a lot of young people in their 20s discovering old time music and playing open back banjos now. So there's actually a bit of a kind of resurgence in open back banjos right now, which is good for me, which is what keeps me in business. So I start with just big chunks of wood. These are like big 4x4s. And I think that's one of the most critical parts of the whole process, is starting with a really nice piece of wood. When I first started the business, I spent a lot of time trying to find good sawmills to really have the best wood I could find. It's got to be cut a certain way. It has to be perfectly quarter sawn and then perfectly straight grained, which a lot of sawmills won't do. So it's kind of a special thing for instruments. So I'll get it like this, and then I'll actually cut it in half into 2 pieces, and then I'll let it sit for weeks or months if I can. Because when the wood is in a tree form, like, it has all this stress built up in it, and you want to, or my philosophy is I want to release all that stress because you don't want the neck to move once it's an actual banjo. So I'll cut it in half, and then that kind of lets off this stress, and usually the two pieces bend out. So I'll let them sit like that for a while, and then I'll plane them down and straighten them out, and then I'll glue them back together. And usually I'll put a little strip of another wood, like a black piece of wood, or like this one's actually 3 little pieces of wood. Kind of for decoration, and it also actually makes the neck a little stronger and stiffer. And then another part, so then you end up with a big chunk of wood, and then I'll cut this bottom piece out so you kind of get a rough neck shape. And again, that reduces, or not reduces, but eliminates some of the stress that's built up in the wood. So then at this point, usually the wood will bend down, and I'll let them sit again for several weeks or months if I can, to let it do any moving it wants to do. And then once it's hopefully settled down and doesn't want to move anymore, I'll flatten everything, and I'll cut a groove down it and put a reinforcement bar in it to hold it there where it is. Because the main thing with stringed instruments is there's these strings that are attached here, and they're pulling on the neck with a pretty good amount of pressure, really. They're steel strings, and they're like, I mean, most people, you never loosen your strings up usually unless you're changing them. So they could be this like constant tension pulling on a neck over years and years, tens of years, hundreds. It could be 100 years, these strings are just pulling up on the neck. So you want to make it as strong as you can so it doesn't end up bowing up. And then I'll profile the fretboard and the peg head overlay, and glue those on there. And then you can just bandsaw around those to get your rough neck shape. So that's been all bandsawed out and just kind of rough shaped, just kind of all with power tools basically up to this point. I mean, I like the idea of doing it all traditionally with hand tools, but if you're going to do it for a living, you kind of have to think of time. So I do a lot of that rough stuff with power tools. But then when it gets to that point, then I go to all hand tools. So all the final shaping of the neck is done with rasps and spoke shaves and things like that, chisels. So this one's been kind of had its final shaping. And then any ornamentation would probably be the next thing you would do. So this one's got a good bit of mother of pearl ornaments in it. So you put all those in, and then any engraving you want to do, which is all the kind of black lines that are on top of the mother of pearl. So you put the mother of pearl, which is a shell, in there, and then the engraving you can put on top of that. You kind of cut these little grooves into the mother of pearl, and then put a black filler in. And they vary, the ones I do. Some have no decoration to them at all; they're just plain. And then some, like this one, which is probably the fanciest one I've ever done, has lots of mother of pearl on it. So the rims are just done. Again, I'll start with a big block, and I'll cut it into strips like this. And my rims are 3 plies of these strips, and I'll bend them. This is a steam box, so I can heat that up. And there's a stuff in wood that kind of holds the wood fibers together called the lignin, and it's like a glue basically that holds the fibers together. And once that lignin gets to I think it's around 200 degrees, about boiling point of water basically, it kind of liquefies, and then the wood fibers, you can bend it and then hold it in that position, and then when it cools down, the lignin basically solidifies in that shape, so you can bend wood. So I can take a strip of this wood and bend it into a circle like that, and it'll stay. So yeah, that's been bent and has been cooled into that shape. So then I'll take 3 of these strips, and I'll bend them around a form. So I'll put them around this big stainless steel form I have with these big giant clamps. You can clamp it all together. And then once they're all glued together, then you can put it on a lathe and turn it down to the certain thickness you want. Usually I do about a 1/2 inch thick rim, although I do some thinner ones too, which can give you a different sound. Depending on the sound you want, you can make a thicker or thinner rim. Then drill holes in it, and it's pretty much your rim.
Well, hello, Brian. How you doing, buddy? I'm going to give you a fiddle lesson today.
All right, sounds good.
I think we'll start off with trying to get you into the right rhythm. I know you're a violin player and you're not much on this old-time rhythm, but we're going to try and see if I can't teach you how to do that today.
All right, sounds good.
First of all, that tune I was playing is called Angelina Baker. My version of it, by the way. There's 1,000 versions out there of that kind of tune. But old time is a little different from Irish or country or bluegrass in the fact that it has a pretty consistent bow pattern. Something like that. Mm-hmm. Or, you know, and basically what I do to start it off, and it's pretty unique a lot of times to old time fiddling, is the drawn bow that starts before the beat. Try and do that. Now, another thing that I would like for you to learn to do is pat your foot.
Okay.
So you're going to start and you're going to, and you run down. There you go. So feel that beat, that whenever you hit that beat, that foot down, that's the actual beat. But you're going to start the note before then. Now, let's talk a minute about what the bow does like this.
Okay.
It does this, and if you have to think about this, you might not be able to do it, but it's just going to be, it's a little circle. Too much of a circle, too much of a, the little note that happens, it's almost just an up, 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 but just a little bit of up, down, up. See, there's that little bit of a down or a recock of the hand to get that just a little bit of a note. All right, now do this. Just get yourself going on some notes. Very good. All right, now what you want to make sure you don't do is to cut the notes off halfway.
Okay.
Old-time fiddle player once told me, he said he spent the first year learning how to draw a bow and the rest of his life trying to push it. Because pushing is the hardest part because it's against gravity. It defies that natural downward motion, and so pushing is kind of the hardest thing to do, I think, in fiddle playing.
Okay.
And so what you do is when you're doing that pushing, you kind of got to accent and overdo the push. See how my hand is. Because if I don't push that hard, I get this little cut off short note instead of the note that's its length.
Yeah.
So you actually, hand feels like it's. See that? So that hand is important whenever you're trying to do that up bow. So try that now. See how you can do with that. See, there's not much of a down bow. It's mostly done on the up bow, as opposed to Irish music. When I play Irish music, I'm going. So in Irish music, I more or less do a little down bow like that.
Okay.
And then the old time bow lick that I've worked out is I do a. And it feels different because it is an up bow. Okay, so try and not do too much wrist in this kind of a bowing. Alright, listen. Yeah. Okay, it's coming.
Okay.
What has to happen, I think, is the feel or the rhythm of that. You're going to have to like do this enough times with the right hand so that you finally start going. See, you just got to feel the rhythm. I think what we need to do now is to go to another area of fiddle playing that's kind of a similar thing. It might help you with understanding that bow rhythm you're trying to accomplish there. Have you ever heard of an old song called In the Mood? It's a 1940s big band sound.
Benny Goodman, right?
Yes. Yes, can you hum that song? That's the rhythm that I play a lot.
they start with a fiddle. I think you start with songs that are already in your head. So that's why we did Turkey in the Straw, because she already knows it to some extent.
Sort of.
And the trick is, for a classically trained violinist, is you're kind of like coming from a different space, I guess. It's not so much that you want to break the habits of the perfect notes that you're trained to make, but it's like it's coming from a different part. It's a part of your mind when you're playing the fiddle in a traditional way. I don't know how much that makes sense, but you know, it's based on rhythm, and you're floating a melody on top of the rhythm, as opposed to just playing the notes like you see it on a piece of paper. So that's the trick of old time fiddling. Not so much bluegrass fiddling, but definitely old time. As you'll you get a bow pattern. A bow pattern going, and the melody kind of floats on top of it. Old time is always in 2/4 or 2/4 time, basically, because that matches the beat of a banjo, of a clawhammer banjo. So, and that was kind of what, you know, the birth of the American traditional music was. The fiddle came from Europe and Ireland and Germany and England, but there were all kinds of different tunes, right? Hornpipes and jigs and reels. But then here came the banjo, the African American banjo, and it has a pretty solid dum-diddy beat, you know. So for the two to meet each other and create the traditional music that we play today, the fiddle had to drop a lot of the jig time and the hornpipe time, and basically stick with the reel time, I think. And so, but then it, you know, it became a much more powerful, dynamic music too, and swept the world, it turns out. And that's where Turkey in the Straw comes from.
Oh yeah.
For instance, yeah. Soldier's Joy is a European tune that came across and was adapted into becoming a fiddle tune with
Cool.
the banjo. But Turkey in the Straw, I think, and Arkansas Traveler, they all sort of date to the antebellum minstrel era. It was so crazy, you know. It was these white guys putting on blackface and imitating African American slaves, musicians, and entertaining white people, and it was so wild and crazy that these guys got to tour the world. In like 1840, the Old Virginia Minstrels played for Queen Victoria.
Wow.
And they went all the way around the world. So it's still with us today.
and do. Cornered all with a seesaw. Partners all with a right hand round. Corner now with a left hand round. Swing your partner all over town. Promenade around that ring. While the bird is crow and the rooster sing. Or the other way around. Couple one, swing your partner. Let's hear for couple one. Couple one, go out to the right. Circle up forward, don't take all night. Lady on the outside, lady in the lead. Gent drop through the little side door, gent in the lead. Lady drop through the little side door. Both couples swing, just those two couples. And circle four. Circle four with that same couple. Then on to the next couple one, go to couple three. Same couple, later round two, and the gent drop through. You lead him and he beats you. Gent around two, and the lady drop through. You swing on the outside, inside two. Same two couples, circle four. Same two couples, circle four. Then on to the next. Couple two, go to couple three. Two couples, lady around two, and drop through. Jen around two, and the lady drop through. You swing on the outside, inside two. And promenade till you get back home. Face your partner with a do-si-do. Corner now with a seesaw. Partners all with a right hand round. Corners all with a left hand round. Swing your partner all over town. Promenade, go 2 by 2. Long lines forward and back. Forward 2, 3, 4 and back. 2, 3, 4. Forward 2, 3, 4 and back. 2, 3, 4. So what we're going for here is we want lines that move together totally in straight line. We don't want these snaky lines like this. We want everyone moving forward, so you gotta wait for all the words to come out of my mouth. Long lines forward and back. Then you step forward. Back, 2, 3, 4. Forward, 2, 3, 4, and back. 2, 3, 4. Perfect. Long lines forward and back. Forward, 2, 3, 4, and back. 2, 3, 4. Forward, 2, 3, 4, and back. 2, 3, 4. Do-si-do with a little more do. Seesaw, go the other way back. Alaman right to your partner. Alaman left to your partner. Swing your partner. Now top couple, reel the set. So you guys step out quickly. That's right hand around your partner. Left hand to the next person. Right hand around your partner. Left to the next. Right hand around your partner. Just keep going all the way down the line. Try with the music. Ready for it. Long line, forward and back, forward, 2, 3, 4, and back. Do-si-do with a little more do. Seesaw, go the other way back. Right hand round. And left hand round. Swing your partner. Top couple, reel the set. Right hand to your partner. Right hand to your partner. Left to the next. do-si-do, little more do, chicken in the red pants picking out do. Seesaw goes any way back, right and round, and left and round. Swing your partner all over town.